even that has been interfered with, even that journey of awakening, of spirituality, of all of that has been very cleverly also interfered with, because that whole aha, I'm awakened, I'm enlightened, it doesn't occur that way. It's not, that's not what it is. In fact, when you are in that, I'm going to call it neutral space, but you know what I mean by that. It's not, it's sort of like you say, you're in both. There is no angel singing, uh big experience. That's all part of an illusion, which is a very clever maneuver of the lights that is not correct. It was a fascinating, it was almost like going through a phase of, oh my gosh, I'm here. And then, oh my God, this is so disappointing. And then, no, this is not. This is actually, it creates an aerial view, if I can put it in simple words, but it's not really, it's much more than that, of no, 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 hang on a minute. That's actually, none of that is actually what you thought it was. It's really, it's been an interesting space as well, just to see, hmm. But then there's also do you find there's a balance internally? There's like a more of a discernment, not a suspicion, more of an intuitive discernment around, okay, that's what that is. That's playing out that way. That's playing out that way. Give me more information. Um, I find it so fascinating that you've explored that in the space of the dark. Yeah, so tell me more. It's been really
Well, it's
interesting.
interesting to hear you speak about the light because I don't think I've explored the light. You know, for me, I just get irritated. I'm just like, okay, those people are a lot obviously off. You know what I mean? So I'm like, whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm not interested in investigating them. Why are
yeah,
they
yeah,
off? And
yeah,
why are
yeah.
they spiritual crazy people? Do you know, not crazy, but you
Yeah.
know,
No, but
imbalanced.
I mean, I've even found myself saying, this is a bunch of hippies. Like, what is, but I don't mean it in a, I just like,
Okay, yeah.
come on, people. It's
Yeah,
been quite
I
interesting.
just tend to avoid certain spaces that where I feel that a lot, where I feel it's not
Yeah.
grounded.
Yeah.
And then I'm okay. So that but it's interesting because you are exploring, it seems like you're actually
I've
exploring that
explored
more.
that
I'm
now, but also
exploring
over
the light
time,
and the
explored
darkness, and you're exploring the dark and the light. You know what I mean? So yeah. I mean, yeah, it's so interesting. I didn't even think about the light and all the dark in the light because I'm just bored. I'm like that. Those are just irritating vibrations that don't like I'm not interested by them. I don't want to understand why they are the way they are. You know, I just need to stay away from it a bit, to be honest. You know,
yeah.
whereas I like with this darkness, exploring the darkness in waves. Yeah, not all
Yeah.
the time. Then I'm
Yeah.
just, oh, this is so fascinating. Like for me, this is where power is. You know, I almost feel like
Huge power.
there is huge power in the light, but I don't really witness it a lot because I don't know that many people that I can feel are so, so powerful and so whole in it,
As in the darkness,
in the light. Like,
but in the light.
yeah, like when I meet people who have powers, it's fascinating, it's amazing. But I haven't met that many who are that powerful. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I can feel it in sessions, in people's sessions. They're so powerful in those moments. And that's when I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is incredible, right?
Mm.
But you know, our world, I feel the external world is there's so much obvious darkness that it's very, to me, it's just interesting to explore it, you know, and to understand what really is happening, to look at all those knots, all those strings and all those knots and really be like, okay, here's a bunch of knots, here's a bunch of knots, And I don't
Mm.
think I need to really figure out exactly how everything works, to be honest.
No.
I just feel like I need to know the location of everything.
But question what that's exactly what came up because what fascinates me about what you're saying, the obvious darkness, there's also obvious light. It's what is beneath that obvious because there are powers and forces beneath that. I feel like the obvious is a distraction. It's a purposeful distraction, whether it's dark or light. I think it's a purposeful distraction away from what that power is. What was really fascinating about what you said now, it's really is the interaction of darkness in the connection to power. So that is like, okay, that is that is really interesting.
You
You
know,
didn't say that. That was the
but
piece.
I've actually said it so many times to my clients. I always feel like the dark in the darkness is the power and in the light is the direction, you know? I feel like that's in the darkness is where we find the power and in the light is where we can find the direction. And I still believe that. And what is so interesting, Z, is like all this deeper exploration that I'm doing at this time has not contradicted anything I've seen at a more superficial level.
Mm,
It's just deepened the inner standing of it, but it's not contradictory. So if I look at, like I said, what it's really helping me to do is to really to understand the context of philosophy. What is the
mm,
context of what I'm doing,
mm,
you
mm,
know? And I still cannot fully articulate it, like what I've learned. Maybe I could probably, if somebody asks me, I could probably articulate it. But I have consistently felt that whatever I created in 2021 is not wrong. It's just that I only understood it at a very shallow level, but it's not wrong. It's not even off. It's still right. Because sometimes when I go back and I read my website, I'm like, all of this stuff, this is exactly what I still want to do. And this is still a lot of it I'm already doing now. But at that
mm,
time, I was so immature at that time in some sense, spiritually, you know? Um, I do, yeah, so I still don't feel like it's going to contradict anything, but I feel it's going to really deepen my inner knowing of it. And that is very important for me to move forward with it.
mm,
Because it has to be resting deeply in my body. It can't just be here.
mm,
And
mm,
that's what I feel is different. Now like I can say certain things, but I don't know why I'm saying them. I don't know why they're important. I don't know where they fit in. But now I feel like I'm starting to feel that, okay, I understand what I have to say, what I have to teach, what I have to,
mm,
and why.
mm.
Yeah. I've been really called to get a reading from somebody. I don't know why. I've been really called to, like, I don't know, to get, I guess it's more information in a different way now. It's now spiritual information.
It's interesting the just the thought or the verbalization that what you started in 2021 isn't wrong. I find that a fascinating statement because along the path, something said it may be wrong, but it's never been wrong. It's just deepened
Yeah.
more and more and more and more. And also, there's two pieces that have always come back. The one is, I'm going to call it political, but I'm going to call it more, it's the impact of those forces on the key leadership, which is governments. If you think about governments, they can control the dark, the light. There's deep control in government structures. Is the political piece. Political is so weak. It's not even the right word. There's like a leader of people piece, a collective of the leaders of the species of humanity, of earth, of broader, where you play a role. Political is like, oh, it's like it's such a weak little thing. It's not that, but it's come into your space through that. And the other piece is the darkness. But every time I say darkness, I'm getting the message to shift it. It's not that. It's the exploration of power in those that lead, the energetics. It's bigger than the species of the species and all the species connects to. It's you've been exploring the darkness, but you've actually very courageously gone into that space, where angels fear to tread. And that's an interesting statement actually that's come through, because the light doesn't always is not courageous enough to go there, actually. Not that it isn't. I don't mean that a powerful light will go there. I mean at this obvious level on the top. So it's almost like you've been shown beneath the obvious. And I know you're exploring the pieces that are happening, but there's a deeper understanding of that power. It's not energy, it's not darkness, it's power. That's what's resonating. Politics, darkness, energy is too light a word for what I'm feeling.
It is power, isn't it? It's all about exploring power.
All of it, the obvious has been the politics, the stories, the Epstein, the Trump, Israel, the the players of power in the darkness, the puppets of power in the darkness.
And
It,
also, I'm so interested, like, in understanding the darkness from its perspective. I've always been.
uh,
You see, it's like
always
how
be
do we,
ways
and and
that
and and not hating it. Like, well, I don't know about not hating it. At the moment, I still have an issue with, Israel, and like that's really, really terrible, like what they're
but it's
doing.
okay to hate it, because it's not about, you're not hating the power and the darkness. You are hating the impact of
And the
what they're doing.
small-mindedness.
Yes,
And
of
for
what
them,
they're doing.
this idea of this, like, for example, like literally one world government or like ruling the world, they think it's a big idea. It's not a big idea. I don't find it a big idea at all. I
It's a
find it
stupid
such
idea.
a limited idea. I find it such a limited idea because it's literally, I don't think it's solving anything. And for me, like where idea has depth is in solutions. Like they're extremely difficult to to really feel into, you know?
They, Israel.
Solutions, this idea of
But
solutions or, pathways. I understand for them it's fascinating, the pathway to total domination or control. But maybe it is, but I feel it's like, so this is the thing, why the darkness has the power, but the light has the direction. Because what I have really also understood is, if you worship the dark becomes in charge of itself. And then its ideas are quite, like, to be honest, like they're not subtle energy. They're not subtle. They're not subtle at all. They're very blah, the ideas, because it is about just total domination, which is coming in some way, somewhere. There's a tiny dot of fear in any domination, any idea for domination. There's always a
has to
deep,
be.
deep root of fear. There must be, you know what I mean? So, um, like, yeah, but like now, if you try to think about how do you bring light into the darkness, that's a fucking complicated idea.
You know what? I don't know if you bring light into the darkness. Do you know what came through now? There's this core piece of one, that we are one, and quantum physics, etc., etc. Philosophy, spiritual philosophy says we are one. Then there's a lot of illusion around we are one in spirituality, in the light, if we call it that. There's a lot of, and also the path to reaching this oneness. You go on a path and you think it's this, but it's not that. What if world domination is the dark path to oneness? Because if you think about it, it is we are one, we are all, we are made of one. Now, no, it's not being activated in that way. I think it's completely misunderstood. But
I get what you're saying, but there's something that they're missing that's very essential.
but I don't think of it this way. If you don't deepen, and we know this, if you don't deepen your own journey, you miss that piece. I think they are missing it. I think they're also operating on the missing level because just common sense, the actions, the war, the killing, it doesn't make, if you're an evolved species, why are you still acting the way you did years and years and years ago? It's like you've stayed at your first grade of school and you haven't, you, I, d- I don't think what is interesting though is the carriers of darkness. Like what fascinates me, like Hitler. So these are people who have an intense ability to connect to power. It's there. But the way they've activated it is
But I
so,
also think I don't know enough about Hitler. Like I have not actually read him, what he's spoken. And I always believe go to the source, right? Know what people say about them. That's what I've
yeah,
learned from this whole thing.
yeah.
I also do believe we've demonized certain people connected to power, and we have the opposite of demonized, whatever that is, whitewashed, others. Like even Putin,
Yeah.
you know, they're like, oh, Putin, Putin. Yeah. And you know what I also find with people who have this currently at this level of consciousness, oh, it's so fascinating talking to you. We can talk about so many different aspects. Putin, I feel like and it's interesting to even think about leadership in this way. Like, if you really look at exceptional leaders, they were in some ways dictators.
Who do you have in
Almost,
mind?
I mean, if you look at even Gandhi to some degree, you know what I
Oh,
mean? Yeah, he created a whole movement behind him, but he was the head of the movement. He was the idea of the movement, or if you look at Putin, or whether you look at even Trump, you have these strong men figures, okay?
mm.
That are the strong man figure are the main figures that really create transformation, like at a
Yes, yeah.
mass conscious
Massive level.
scale,
Yes.
okay? And it's not even strong woman. I mean, maybe Margaret Thatcher, okay, but she was still like a strong man, you know?
She was a man.
She was very strong man energy, right? So,
Maybe
but if you
Cleopatra. I don't know. Maybe
I don't know.
Cleopatra.
Yeah, and again, I don't know enough about it, but yeah, there was this older archetype of the magnetic feminine that
Mm.
still ruled with an iron kind of, there's no way to rule
Little
without that,
Yes,
without this
yes, yes.
step, right?
Beheading, killing,
Which includes
war.
what we call
Yes,
all this human rights violation. I hate that definition of word, but basically a certain degree of ruthlessness in decision making.
yes. Had Israel, she had Israelis as slaves in ancient Egypt, which is also interesting.
Okay.
But that's true. That's true. They
But,
fighters.
but
It's
that
not
doesn't
all love
necessarily,
and
but
peace.
the
Mm.
problem is what we have done is defined this the wrong way. We're not supposed to look at leaders based on whether they are democratic or dictator. We're supposed to look at them in terms of wisdom and benevolence. Okay. Um, I'm listening to a lot of MAGA stuff because it's very interesting. Like the
Mm.
MAGA analysis is really interesting. They're basically the anti-Israeli movement at the moment, MAGA 2.0, whatever they call it. I don't know. They're the anti-Israeli movement in the States. They're basically against the Israeli influence in the States. Um, and like there's a cutoff line, where they go into like kind of white nationalism, extreme anti-immigration and all of that kind of stuff. That's where I'm like, okay, that's not my vibe. But
Mm.
I'm able to listen to them for everything else. I just ignore the other stuff. And then I listen to the liberals. What's interesting about the liberals is that they don't have really a clue of the deeper motivations. They might have the answers in terms of pluralism in the world, in terms of this idea of pluralism and unity and diversity. This is a
Mm.
truth that they hold, I believe, but they have not got the analysis and the deeper understanding of, you know, human, like of the agendas at play,
Mm.
including because they've become so secularist, they've divorced themselves from real emotion and spirituality. And what I've learned from this is basically this is spiritual war at the end of the day. And so philosophy is like, oh my God, I didn't realize how relevant it is, because these are all spiritual ideas that deep, deep, deep forces are chasing, you know?
But you see, I think also the solution is not the light and dark. So if you think about just what you've said, now the liberals have now created, they're secular, there's compartments, there's this is in, this is out. MAGA, same. So I think the thinking is always there's a polarity. Yes, we understand that, but I
Oh, it's
don't
both.
think it's both. But I think it's the integration of both. They're not separate. There is it's
They
almost like
need,
they need to, if you think, I was looking at this the other day. So in the Enneagram, it's really interesting. So that's also ancient spirituality brought into, but there's a power of one, which is the circle, which we know.
what's
Then there's the
Enneagram?
power.
I don't understand it. Anyways, continue first and then you tell me later.
Okay. So, oh, the Enneagram is this assessment that I do, but it's very deep. It picks up on your subconscious patterns, but the history of it is based in spiritual philosophy across different regions. So Greek philosophers, Asian philosophers, anyway, but they talk about the power of one, which is the circle. That's the picture of it. Then there's the power of three, which is the triangle. So Tesla, 369, Tesla spoke about that. But what they're saying, so we say one and one is two. We have these two polarities, one and one is two. But if you look at electricity, energy, science, and I don't know this in depth, there's always a three. And the triangle says it is, I don't even think integration, it's like the transcendence of the two into a third pole. So electron, neutron, and what's the third? Proton. So the atom is electron, neutron, and proton. There's always three elements to transcend or transform. So that's why I find it interesting. I think this is bigger than just light and dark. I think there's a movement of the two. I don't know what it is. I don't know how it is, but I
Think the third is the integrated one.
yes,
Test
it's the integrated, but I don't think it's as simple as mixing. Maybe it is black and white to get gray. I think
gray. I think, like from what I'm experiencing with myself, I do this
yes,
interesting practice. I've like since all this stuff came up, I
yeah,
imagine half my body in dark energy
yes.
and half my body in light energy. Just imagine it right now. Half your body, left side, feminine side in darkness,
Mm.
masculine side light.
I actually struggle to, I can imagine it, but I actually struggle to separate them. It's quite interesting, actually.
Yeah, and I feel like it's actually like, the yin yang. It's a paint. It's imagine if you mix paint, white on
Yes,
one side and black on the other.
yes,
It has
yes,
lines and it's flowing and it's not the same all the time. It's like this,
yes,
right?
exactly. Yes,
And I think the integrated part is when you're able to use both. When you're able to use both. I feel the light,
yes.
it grounds you in the truth, but the dark gives you that, it grounds
Power.
you in the reality.
Yes,
So one is a
yes.
that is you can talk about a higher truth, but or the deeper truth, and the
I like,
dark grounds you in the reality. So when you're grounded in the reality, by the way, when you use this for decision making, it's so good because you're no longer in fear anymore because you're grounded in the reality. So no judgment of it as bad or good, but yet you can
uh,
still connect to the deeper or higher or spiritual truth of it.
mm. What I really love about this conversation is the transformation. It's not like we haven't spoken about this before, but I've already gone to the depth. I can feel the depth, the transformation of darkness as power. it is exhilarating. I've got to be honest. The energy of it is exhilarating.
It is. And it's pleasure in another form. And we've been taught to fear that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
We've only been taught to the body to accept the light pleasure, the pleasure of the light. But even the light, but the thing is, if your body can open to the dark emotions, let's say, or the dark frequencies, like you can actually experience it to some degree as pleasure. And that all these people who do all these piercings and loads of tattoo, like they know that. Skin,
Mm.
people hang from their skin, like it's not for me. But so what is so interesting is, if you look at philosophy, I started with darkness. I started with the match, the fire in the dark. Then I moved into the clouds and then into the light, into the gold. And
Mm.
now I've moved into this pinkish color, which is both shadow and light everywhere. It's water. It's the sunset or the sunrise, and it's all pinkish, golden, and also patches of dark because I think that's the journey, like if it really is about heaven on earth, not transcending this earth into heaven,
I
then
don't
it
think it is. Yeah.
yeah, I don't agree with that either. I mean, I've
That,
always found
I think that's the illusion. I think, you know what came up now, interestingly, that the light illusion says you're a good person if you don't do this, if you don't do that. So if you do all those bad things, you're a bad person. So therefore, I'm going to keep you away from the darkness by criticizing all these things. So I'm not saying like have discernment, don't go around killing people, but I mean, yes, that's obviously even in the darkness, there's levels of consciousness. There's still consciousness levels where you're going to make decisions and get wisdom. So that's what's happened for me is the disappointment and the illusion of the light, like
mm,
big time. It's not that I'm avoiding it at all or criticize. It's not that. It's not that. It's seeing it now, seeing what it
and maybe they
just
don't have
seeing
the
the
answers.
reality. If I think of the central point, reality is probably a good word.
And from what my experience with spiritual practices, the answers are not in the light.
No.
The answers are in the darkness. Like when you move emotion, when you move very difficult emotion, the answer comes after that. It doesn't come when you go and just meditate. I mean, well, yeah, well, does it when you meditate? I mean, when you meditate in the light, I think you experience the ultimate truth, right? That's why it's the direction. That's because it's the higher consciousness. But the answers specifically are when I close my eyes and I go inside. That's a dark state. That's an intuitive state. It's not a planning outside of myself state, you know?
Mm. It's definitely internal. It's definitely inside,
And that's
in
the
the dark. You're right. I didn't think of that. Like that's dark inside. It's in there. And that might lead to a different That's why I still think light and dark is not the right narrative anymore. I know we're speaking about it, but I don't
I don't
think
know
it's
how else to speak
it's
about
that.
it.
No, I know. I'm just fascinated by this because I love it because it's just transforming that whole perspective and shift of it. And it's giving permission for dark to be in the light, if we use those words. It takes away that fear, the judgments. Um,
So let me ask you, from your experience in the light, I don't
hmm,
know, not even in the light. Let's say just your experience.
yeah.
Where do you feel you are positioned? If you had to articulate it, where do you
Currently,
feel is your space, is your place? Where do you feel is your being at the center of the context for you?
so currently, I'm feeling like I've moved to the 0 point. When you're not in either, but you've experienced, it's like I was there in that light, came back. So it's about a comfort of reality. I've also been pulled back into African leader space, not political, but different. So last year I went all over, tried different things, and it was a disaster. and it's pulling me back there. And the one thing I've known my entire life, I always get put in the place where I'm needed, always. Like I know by the randomness of things. So that, anyway, so where am I at? It's this neutral space. Because what was interesting physically for me, like since probably December, back and forth, my right side, congestion in my head, pain in my head, this whole middle ear infection, whatever, whatever. But my whole right side, my hip, was giving me a lot of issues. So there's this one doctor here. She's actually quite in tune. And I went and I said, listen, I was so busy, middle ear infection. I took some antibiotics, which I didn't want to do, but I needed to like get through it, work. She says to me, Z, okay, you know this better than anyone else. What is the message? I'm not giving you any medicine. And it was so interesting. She's a medical doctor. And it was interesting again. Okay, I've got to reconnect with what this is. And what's the right is masculine. Huh?
Yeah.
Um, and it was this, and it's far less, it's gone, but I've still got a little bit in my ear. But there was this piece about not having walls up to the dark, but also the only word I can think of is a deep disappointment of what I thought the light was. And it's not like I don't see the light, just like a deep rejection of the light in the form that we think it is, if that makes sense. But you've got to see that. And then a deep contentment in this space that's either going to take you to the light or dark. It's more like okay, show me now. Like I'm not afraid to go into that space. If it's like a groundedness in the neutral without an avoidance of the dark, if I can put it in the words that we are using. Where am I at? Just where I'm at. It's I know that all the places I've looked to change, it keeps bringing me back, which is interesting. I don't know how to explain it. It's just grounded where I'm at. I'm not afraid of fear. Like I'm more open to exploring what comes through. And also just processing this made that deeper, if that makes sense. But I had to see the light for what it was and what it wasn't, which is also that's been really it was really interesting, but also quite hard because I've explored a lot of the light over my life, and it was just disappointing, disappointing, disappointing. And not the processes that we've done. I'm not talking because those are processes of wisdom. There's a difference. And
Interestingly, I think wisdom is dark, by the way, because it's from within. Knowledge is from without.
yeah, if you use the light and dark analogy, I think it's both, but
Yeah.
I do hear what you're saying.
But it could
Yeah,
be like this, you see? The
yeah.
light in the dark. You know what I mean? Coming from
Yeah,
that.
yeah, agree. It is light in the dark, definitely. Because you don't know, you don't know, you don't know, then you know. Then you don't know, you don't know, you don't know, then you know. It's like swimming like in the sea, deeper you go, it gets dark, dark, and then there's some sunlight, and then it gets dark. But you're still in the same space, you're still in the water. What a fascinating, fascinating conversation and thought.
I still feel like I'm not clear, or maybe I haven't heard you properly, but I'm still interested to see where do you see yourself? So I don't know if I can express it better.
Okay.
Probably not, but like, okay, if you see that the context of the light and the dark as it manifests around us is the context,
Mm.
but then you are a world unto yourself. What, how do you articulate that?
You mean in the context of this world of light and dark? Is that that's what
Yeah.
you asked?
So like if you look at the like imagine the ocean is the context and that's like all
Yes.
dark and light. Like
Oh,
it's
yes,
the,
yes,
it's the manifested reality, right? Where do you
yes.
place yourself in? Can you articulate where you feel is your space or realm, your own realm there in that?
Currently, I feel like imagine there's the water and the sunlight shines into a point and then it goes dark. I feel like I'm floating and observing in that point, which either moves up or down at the moment, if that makes sense. I know it sounds very on the fence neutral, but
And
it's not.
I mean, so I hear what you're saying about where you feel you are, but okay, so where this question is coming from is, look, to be honest, there are very few people I can have this level of conversation with. Very few. I don't even know if there's another. With so much synergy, even with different perspectives, there's no conflict.
No,
The
there's no
perspectives
conflict.
are not this way. Even if they're different, they are still aligning.
Yes. They
So,
integrate. Yeah.
yeah. So I see that. And I wonder, if you look at what my process is looking at all of this realities and trying to understand,
Yeah.
okay, so what is my round? Like, can I just re-articulate, even if it's just a feeling, even if it's not,
Yeah.
a mission statement, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
where is my place in all of this? And maybe I also want you to ask me that because that helps me think, but I wonder for you because I feel like in some ways we are a puzzle and our pieces fit in a certain way. And maybe there are other people also who are pieces, and probably there are many people who are pieces overall. But I just wonder what
Yeah.
your piece, how you experience your own piece to be. Does that make sense? Am I articulating myself? So, okay, let me just try and see if I can. I wonder if you have a sense of yourself, the way I have not the way that I have a sense of you, the way that I'm getting a sense of my own self in terms of my purpose, in terms of my bigger calling, not just in terms of my pets and my home. I'm talking about my place in the world.
Mm. I don't have a sense of that. I think I thought I did, but I think so that's a piece that I am exploring. I don't There's a part of this exploration that says there's not a solid answer and it's not an avoidance. It's actually more not an avoidance than it's ever been before. There's a piece here that I don't know. I know that I'm in a space where I am grounded enough and unafraid to explore that, if I can put it like that. I I don't have words. I don't have. So what this conversation has done, it has opened up the excitement I actually do have for the dark and have always had, but I've closed it off for what the lights said is not good or right. I can't actually tell you. I don't know. It's a good question that you've asked me. I don't have an answer. But it's okay not to have an answer. I'm not avoiding not having an answer at all. Maybe before I would have, but currently I'm not. I would like to explore and what you've opened up for me. I tell you, there's an excitement about, oh, the one piece I can say, I'm more excited about the unknown, which is normally a space of fear. Like I want to see more of that. Maybe that's why I'm hovering in that space. I want to dive and see more and then come up and see.
Oh, yeah, I get you. I get you. You know, it's funny because before this, I was much more in the unknown, and I'm like, yeah, I just want to walk in the in the unknown.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I
but
can hear that.
but now it's interesting because there might be, I've realized there's so much unknown about the context and outside of myself, but
Yeah.
what I'm feeling is more of my own knowledge of self, which I feel has been missing. You know, you asked me why I said like, oh, it's been a mistake, or why was it a mistake, or was it wrong, or something like that. And it wasn't that I ever thought it was wrong, but you know, it was very early in all the situation of the world. It was an idea that almost it felt totally true, but the context didn't show me it was true. The
But
context was still in this early phase of external breakdown, like very early on. Now we're in full-fledged like destruction mode, right?
yeah, yeah.
And now I can see very clearly how it is true, you know?
Maybe
So
that was very intentional because look at what's happening. Maybe let's call it sake of time, but I don't think that wasn't, I think that was exactly as it was supposed to be.
I think so too, of course, because I was working here and now I'm working like here, maybe, you know?
It's perfect for what is happening. And also, you don't know because your depth has gone so deep. You also don't know what part you are playing in this creation. You don't know. All the stuff that's coming up now, all this darkness, it has to come up. You can't suppress it. It's not part of, so you actually don't know. Remember, you're very powerful. You actually don't know that part. Maybe you do, I'm assuming, but maybe that part of your purpose is not, you know, you, I just find the timing and the alignment. I don't want to use time. Let's say alignment and resonance of your depth in the space, you know, that that's fascinating.
I think what I'm feeling as you're speaking is I'm getting clear about why I'm asking you that the question I asked you. So
Uh,
I've moved from this unknown, which is lovely to walk into the unknown. But I think what I'm getting right now is the self knowledge, right? And I've realized that I need that self knowledge to believe it enough in what I'm doing to do it, because otherwise I'm just not doing it, right? My biggest sabotage has been not doing the things I want to do. Like this has been an attempt, like recording these conversations has been an attempt to move one step, but none of us have even bothered to watch it. We don't even know. We actually had to get somebody else to actually put it up, right? And that's, you know, like self, I've realized that the thing that has been missing, and I will tell you a little bit because I did a reading about the world with another healer called Zany. But I'll tell you about one of the things I saw in that reading. But I realized in order for me to walk forward, in order for me to have trust, I must know self. Even if that's not a limited knowing in terms of defining myself as an identity, you know, but in coming back to the truth over and over and over and over and over again at deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper layers, and coming back to my truth and seeing with my eyes that it is relevant, that it is applicable, that it is a principle, that it is universal. You know, I was listening to this guy, all these podcasts I'm listening to, all this analysis and blah, 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 you know, right wing, left wing, whatever. The humanity is really missing. There's a real, like, and we use the word humanity, but it's not even, because it is deeper than that, because it's not just about humans, you
it's
know?
being, it's about beings.
About conscious, it's about all the life, all the awareness, you know. And so if I came back to myself as a spiritualist, essentially that's who I am, like that's my perspective. So this person is a this ist, and that's their perspective, and then this, and I come back to, But I've called myself a spiritualist in some ways without using that title formally many times. But I have not known what it means in the context of the reality.
Mm.
So the reason why there's so much to say in this conversation, I feel like I keep going everywhere instead of like coming back to what I was saying. But the reason I asked you this question is, even if you're walking in the unknown, Z, I wonder if you like, know yourself in that way. And not to say, oh, you don't know yourself in that way, but because, like I said, I'm having this conversation with you and I'm realizing that I don't think there's anybody I can have this conversation with in this way, at this not only level, but myriad framing of it, like a like it's multi-dynamic.
Mm.
And so I wonder if you know yourself in that way, because you don't need to know everything you're going to do. You
No.
don't need to limit yourself by a boundary of who you are or
Yeah.
by a boundary of what is going to unfold for you. But I feel there's something there and I can't feel it yet. I can't feel it. And maybe I'm not supposed to feel it. You're supposed to feel it and then I'm going to feel it. You know what I mean? But
So
that's not something I feel that is not something I feel that is just only interested in what is my discovery of philosophy. There's what is you know what I mean? Like I don't know if I'm being it might be coming out wrong, but not
no,
coming out.
what's resonating really strongly is so what's resonating very strongly is I haven't, and it came through the death of my aunt. So my aunt was like my mother. She was like a mother to me. And the thing I was grappling with a lot was where's my space? So in the family, I've always when there's crisis or everything, I'm strong, I support, I listen. With my clients, I listen. I'm always listening. But if someone did, and it's interesting because then I went back and read about again the shadow work, child, all that stuff. But what is interesting, so I created this inner sanctum. So I've lived in this inner sanctum. But the one thing I haven't allowed is if someone wants to give me that space, I'm so used to not taking it. So someone saying to me a compliment or something, I'll say thank you, but then I'll push it back. So I haven't allowed the realization of where I am. Like if so it's interesting that you tell me about the depth of the conversation. And I'm like, wow, that's quite amazing that that's a possibility. And I'm quite that's amazing. So it's like I haven't accepted perhaps. Yes, we've had this conversation, but it's become real. And I love the question because I haven't accepted who I actually am or who I haven't allowed it to come in. I've I've stopped it. And this right hand side was also part of that. To start saying, okay, it's not about demanding space, it's about opening it up to allow that in. Like, so when you say that to me, there's like this piece that says, oh no, wait, let me push it back just in case I'm not that. I can't be that. That's like too much. How is it possible to be so powerful? How is it possible to be so deep? That's you that's not what that's why you feel like you can't fit into the world because but now I'm seeing, and your question is really valid because it's brought that back. It's like, okay, let it let it in. It's real. It's actually true. Um, so it's about the discomfort or the darkness of this discomfort, and now sort of allowing that, moving it. So, and you've always said to me, you're more powerful than you think. So it's I've been stopping it.
I want to say something to you that's really, really like like it's coming up for me so clearly. First of all, power doesn't have to be loud.
No, it's not loud, in fact. In
Power,
fact, it's not loud at all. It's actually quite strategically soft.
well, it depends on the power. Like you have a waterfall, right? That power,
Is
that is,
huge.
but it's constant, right? It's not trying to do anything.
It's not
But
trying. That's the difference. It's not
mine,
yeah,
and
not
so
performing.
mine might be more outwards. My power might be more outwards. Yours might be more circular, okay? Might be more holding, more
Yes.
multidimensional, more multi-perspectived, right?
Yes. I think
Might be
resonate.
more like water, and mine might be more like fire.
Fire.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
saying any of it, but I
Yeah.
think just to keep remind. I think that's something for you to remember that power doesn't have to look like one thing. That's the
Yeah.
first. The second thing, because of all this illness and all this chest and all this stuff, what I've realized is I've been going very deep in the pain here as well, the darkness here. And I
Yeah.
really believe maybe some of this self-knowledge is actually not coming from me allowing it in, but from me taking out what is blocking me from realizing it from inside of myself.
Resonates. Yeah. It resonates a lot. Because I was working with this piece to and understand, as you would say.
And the third thing is, to me, it's about becoming the centrality in your reality.
Mm,
And not to deny anybody else's centrality, but I feel you're very good at witnessing another person's centrality.
mm, mm.
And I want, I always, I don't know, I'm always called to ask you to stand in the center too.
I haven't been, yeah. That's the fear now that is in here that I must explore. That's what's come up. So the conversation is amazing. Just to put it back to mm, that insight. But it doesn't feel like, we've been through these processes. We're like, oh God, another process that I've got to go deep into. It doesn't feel like that. It feels like more of this excitement, this like, you know,
Mm.
um, yeah,
And each of us in our own time, but I have noticed, like, for at least me and Kaya and Pao, we've all been journeying with this deep, deep, deep intensity the last 2 months, and it's been horrible. Like, why lie? It's not been fun.
there's been a lot the last, yeah, the 2 months, I'd say. Where we now, March, since I'd say, yeah, Jan, Feb. Yeah.
Yeah, I see you like total, I see you energetically like so much movement. Like I see you in the center, and then I see all this moving energy in and out, in and out, in and out. So that when you're with other people, it's not that you take up all this space in terms of being center in front of others, but you are the center in yourself. And so you keep moving. And so wherever you go, you bring something. Wherever you go, you bring something. But it's not like you need that external centrality.
No.
But there's an internal centrality when you take that. It's just owning what you already are, I guess, in a simple terms. It's a very simple.
It is that and allowing that. So the irritation that came up was like, why? Why is it always about you and about you and about you? Like, I mean, you listen to me. There's very few people that actually listen. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and that was, I'm used to that, but that was irritating me. And I'm like, why is it irritating me? And now it's almost like, okay, well, it's because taken your own, you haven't said it's okay for you to have your own space. It's like you haven't done that. And it's okay to do that. it's fine. Um, but it came from a place of a complete disillusionment. I actually thought maybe I'm in depression because I was like, oh my fuck, my whole life has been about the light, and there's a lot of bullshit in that light. Although there's always been a level of wisdom, it's not like there hasn't been, but there's actually a big load of BS. Um, but it served its place. So there was a space around, okay, well, I, it takes you internally to say, okay, the power is there. You don't need all the hmm, illusion. I'm not using the right words. It's not a criticism. It's a truth. It's seeing truth, if I could maybe put it that way. And then I also think we see this now, but there's deeper truths to be seen that we are not seeing. And you are seeing, sure, a lot. Like even in the space that you're exploring, but there's so much truth coming out now.
I think a lot of people are exploring all of this stuff. And like I said, I'm happy to give you a quick summary.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'd like to hear that.
Yeah. And I won't record that because that's like, personal views. But I don't know how many people are what they are doing with it. That's the thing. And I think that's where I want to really teach. I really want
Oh
to teach.
yeah.
Because what are you doing with it? So what? Now you're preparing to buy all this canned food and rice and stuff and store your cupboard. Okay, I mean, that's very limited. It's a very limited way to use this information. So I want to show you this stuff. Can I show you this stuff? Because I would love to hear your opinion about it.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me, yeah.
Get my notebook and I'm going to put it up on the screen so I can draw it.
Oh, cool.
I would love to hear what you get from it because I think you'll have such a like a much deeper perspective than just the surface of what's happening.
Perfect. I want to feel hear it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally get you. So can you see? No, you can't see because I haven't shared my screen, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I have to share the screen. There we go. Oh, hold on. Okay, cool. Can you see well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. So this is what I figured out, Kidogo. Okay, and the most misty of it is the money thing. Is the money is the money thing. That's the most like I don't really know. That's one of the issues, okay? So there's something about fiat currency. I don't know if you know what fiat currency is.
Yeah,
It's money when it was taken off the gold standard.
yeah.
So basically money is now debt. That's all it is. When it's not tied to any asset, it's debt. And
Okay.
basically there's a whole bunch of stories around um the fact that there are these families. There's a particular family called the Rothschilds, and the
Yeah.
Rothschilds they set up the central banking system in most of these places, and they own these central banks somehow through
Mm.
whatever weird network of companies. The world is like $10 trillion in debt. Who is it in debt to? That's a basic fundamental question, right? So it's apparently indebted to these bankers, these private bankers that own the central banks and a central banking system to some degree. Okay. And what I understand is that it's interesting. The countries that were not using this central banking system include Venezuela, Cuba, Iran, Syria, Iraq, Russia, China.
They call them, who was talking about it? Who was I listening to the other day? Chase somebody. Rogue countries.
Yeah, but it's basically connected to the banking system. So money, the banking. Let me even talk about banking system, right? It's money, it's about money.
Yeah.
Banking and money. Okay? Now, basically, what it means is our currencies are all built on, it's like a Ponzi scheme. It's all fake. It's basically built, it's a house of cards. Now, and what they want to do with this banking system is they want to apparently take it digitally.
Mm,
So you have digital currency, which we've already got right now, anyways, because like you can wire stuff that's just all digital. I don't have any cash. The bank doesn't keep cash. It's all digital. The
mm,
bank keeps 10% of its digital reserves at any given time or something, 8%.
mm,
And they want to connect this apparently to this digital ID that they want to, they've tried to bring it out in the UK and they wasn't ready. So they'll probably try it again another time.
mm,
And this digital ID would be connected to the digital money.
mm,
So you can now regulate anybody's behavior. Because the minute they misbehave,
mm,
you can close down their digital money.
mm,
So it's about extreme control, right? Super control. So that's one piece. And I
mm,
don't understand. And there's also obviously there's like crypto in here and there's all the stock market. And I don't really understand a lot of that. That's too complicated for me to understand.
mm,
Okay. But basically, apparently, some of these wars are connected to trying to get almost potentially a one world banking system that can be centrally controlled. Once they centrally control that, the first thing you learn about the Epstein files is that there is a they. That's the most important thing to take away from that. It's not about the sex trafficking and about that there is
right.
an actual they. There's a bunch of people who are all working for each other, working for people who might not yet know exactly their names, but they're all part of this kind of central, interconnected hegemony. Okay. Um,
Yeah.
Now, then because of these guys, you're going to have to come to Israel and you're going to have to come to the Zionists. Because the Rothschilds basically set up Israel. They bankrolled Israel. They were part of the founding people of Israel. And so this is now, so you can even move this potentially even here. And who did Epstein work for?
The Israelis. He's an operative.
Not only that, he worked for Ariana officially, he also worked for Ariana Rothschild.
Mm.
He worked for the Rothschilds. Officially, like formally, did their money stuff for them. And what you see in some of those emails, I didn't have a chance to look at so much because so much of it is finance, like I don't understand it. But basically, the Rothschild would say, oh, I have a seat on this board and I have a seat on this board. And who do you recommend? And even saying, oh, I can help Ehud Barak get a consultant, get a position here. And why doesn't he do you know what I mean? Like they just play with all these positions. And you have probably a bunch of other institutions connected to these. They talk about the Bilateral Trade Commission. They talk about
Also, companies. You've heard of BlackRock, Vanguard.
so yeah, you've got all of these BlackRock and Vanguard and and all of these people they're connected. Okay.
All
But then
own, and then own the world, basically.
I don't know, BlackRock is Israeli. I don't know about Vanguard.
No, it's families. So I think
Families.
Roth, I'll send you a video on that. It's fascinating how there's two or three families that basically own the world. So BlackRock and Vanguard are the companies that own companies that own basically all key industries across the world. So what's really interesting also about what you're saying, yeah, so fiat's not linked to gold currency. So the dollar is no longer linked to gold currency, to gold standard. And Trump is now looking at dollar 2.0, which is exactly this digital currency, which is fascinating. The other piece that's interesting here, I was listening to it's somebody who's been involved in the investigation of Epstein, who it's apparently become public knowledge, but Ghislaine Maxwell's father and Epstein are Israeli spies, operatives. So they work for the Israeli government.
Yeah.
And their whole operation was to compromise these key players of money in America being the superpower. So they could blackmail, compromise, own, and
That's
control.
exactly what they were doing. So I believe that they blackmailed Donald Trump.
I agree because Israel and America are alliances in this war.
Hmm.
It makes absolutely no
Yes,
sense
for America, yeah.
for America to be in alliance with, and then
So
I think exactly that. I think Epstein's whole thing. So we're looking at all the documents. He was watching people all the time. He would put them in compromising positions only to blackmail. So Ghislaine Maxwell's father is a well-known Israeli operative.
yeah, yeah, he's a Zionist. And he not
Yes,
only that, but he actually prints all the textbooks. He was responsible for printing textbooks. So you also need to think about what they're doing in terms of information. So, I mean, I started looking at World War II stuff. That's basically seems to be indicating that 6 million Jews were not killed. There wasn't a Holocaust. Yes, the official figures from the Red Cross were between 200 and 300,000 Jewish people were killed. But like I think it was like 12 million Russians were killed in the war.
really.
Yeah, like loads of Russians
That-
died fighting Germany.
You know, that's really interesting.
So it's not to say there weren't concentration camps, but the concentration camps were for the purification. But now what you also start uncovering potentially is all of this conspiracy was actually happening at that time. And that's something, and some people believe that actually Hitler had picked up on all of this. See this control here? The money
Mm.
system, the banking system, all of this kind of stuff. Now, here comes the spiritual part. When you go into the Epsteins and you go into pedophilia and sex trafficking and what they're doing with young children and stuff, it will lead you algorithmically to what has happened to many children who have been trafficked, who claim, or I don't even want to use claim, but why would so many people say the same thing? But many, many people who have been it's called a satanic ritual abuse, okay? Where young children from the age of 2 to the age of 7, 8, 9 are basically ritually raped, ritually killed. Babies are actually ritually killed. And it's all around this cult of Baal. Okay. And do you know, so here we come into the Islamic world, right?
So that
Okay.
was my okay. So the cult of Baal is. Can I tell you a quick story? Interesting. I haven't heard of that, but a friend of mine knows a girl who was okay. So they always target the marginalized, the don't have,
Parents
and
are not well mentally and stuff like that. Yeah.
the same in the world of Islam. So this girl, very difficult childhood. Mother basically abandoned her. She came across this woman who was very kind to her, very good, brought her up, blah, blah, blah. She walked the power of darkness. Okay. So this, and these are from her own words, is not a story. So she walks. So this woman says, why don't you come and live with me? Lives with her, takes good care of her. She said, but there's one thing you never do. You never enter this room. Anyway, the one day she did, this woman was levitating. She was levitating. She saw her levitating, obviously astral traveling, whatever she was doing. She comes down and she says, I told you never to come into this room. Anyway, she then brings her into this world of Satanism or satanic cult. And this girl says, so one of the things she had to do was to kill a baby, and that's where
Through the
she
line.
stopped. So she talks about God and how God came into her life and light and but so I'm just find that I haven't heard of the cult of Baal, but I'm finding, sorry, I'm interrupting you and I don't want to interrupt you. So continue. It's just interesting
Oh,
for me.
okay. So basically, apparently, this is connected to many people connected to the history of the Jews from a certain Kazanic Jews or
Yes,
Kars some kind of
yes.
Jewish people from Mongolia sides, basically, who originally were practicing a lot of this craziness. And then at
Is
some
that
point,
the
there was so
Ashkenaz
not Ashkenazi. So
other one?
before the Ashkenazi Jews, there was this
Yes.
Kharzinik something or the other Jew. They weren't Jews. They were actually practicing a lot of crazy they call it they inverted. Yeah, so instead of this way, the triangle is this way, they invert everything.
Yes.
So they attain freedom through complete degenerate, what we would call degeneracy, right? Inverting everything. And so these guys were apparently such a problem historically that the Turkish people defeated them. And when the Turks defeated them, the Ottoman Empire, the leader of the empire made them convert into, they chose one of the three religions. The king of the, whatever this group is beginning with KHA,
Yeah.
they had to choose Islam, Judaism, or Christianity, and they chose Judaism. And then those people migrated into Europe and became the Ashkenazi Jews. So, in a sect of these people, this still exists. At the same time, they initiate, I don't know if they only initiate Jewish people, but I think they initiate elites into this cult. Okay, there's something around this. And this now is also about Hollywood. This also enters a lot into entertainment,
Yeah, I can understand that.
right? It's a big, big thing. So, entertainment, education. You've also got education, and you've
Yeah.
got big pharma and you've got medicine,
Yeah, medicine. Yeah.
you know? And they're all kind of these different pillars. And connected to somewhere in this map is also the energy market. You know what I mean? That's a big player in all of this. Now, around this, you'll basically see that there's an alliance between the Christian Zionists and the Israeli Zionists because the Israelis, the Zion, not the Zionists, but the Orthodox Jews, the
Mm.
fanatical Jews, let me say, they believe in well, not all Jews believe in the coming of the Messiah. And there's a prophecy that the Messiah will come when the third temple is built. That's the site in Jerusalem where currently there's the Al-Aqsa Mosque. And so
Yes.
when apparently when they rebuild this third temple, that's when their Messiah will come. And the fanatical Jews believe that when their Messiah comes, that's when there'll be the establishment of the kingdom of this Messiah will rule the whole world. And that's when the children of Israel will return all to Israel and they will take up their rightful place as God's children.
Yeah.
And many of the fanatics or the extremists or the crazies or whatever, they believe that then basically there'll be a Jewish supremacy, and then this comes into the one world government, which
But is
is
that also not where that mosque is, which is causing all the tension between
yes.
Israel and Palestine because that's the spot that they're trying to destroy?
Yeah, apparently, and since the war in Iran started, they've closed off that mosque to public worship. Apparently, people are saying there's rumors that they're digging beneath the foundations so that they can weaken the foundations, so that if it collapses, they can blame the Iranians, an Iranian missile or whatever, and then they can bring into play the prophecy. Now, the Christian Zionists support the Jewish Zionists because, well, they're not even, because many Zionism originally was secular. It was, they weren't religious. Khazarian. Those Jews were called Khazarian. All of this could be extreme anti-Semitism and problematic history, but I always feel like that where there's a lot of people saying the same thing, there's some truth there.
Yeah.
Some truth there. The Christian Zionists believe that because in the Christian prophecy, the Jewish Messiah will, when the third temple is built, the Antichrist will come and anoint himself there. And then that will trigger the coming of Jesus Christ, the true Messiah.
Mm.
So they believe
Oh,
that
the
the Messiah
Christ.
will be the Antichrist because he'll be anointed in the third temple. And then now Jesus Christ will trigger the coming of
Like Jesus Christ.
Christ. So that's why they support Israeli Zionists who are also using, the Israeli Zionists are using this prophecy, who are secular, to build the one world government, which they need this digital money and digital ID, right? And I mean, that's why and so one of the things they've been saying, what they've been trying to do, there's this theory that entertainment, through education, through medicine, what they have been trying to do is basically weaken
Mm.
entire civilizations, especially the Western civilization, because
Mm.
that's the most powerful hegemon. in order to keep people weak and not in their full power, full consciousness, full awareness, so that they can now have control globally and bring into play this one world government. I don't know what's the point of this later. What they're going to do with this one world government because you can't eat gold. So I don't really see the. That's why I say this idea is so limited,
It's
right?
so it's so interesting. There's quite a few people here in this area that are very aware of this. So one of the guys here, Michael Tellinger, he's well known. He's written quite a number of books and he's done a lot of studies on ancient energies, ancient ruins. He's found proof in these areas of stone circles. He's got a museum of petrified uh, giants, dinosaurs, pieces that he's found, and he's traveled the world around this. But so he's very much on this, and he's very much about starting a new way. It's called onesmalltown.org, and he's created a currency that's not linked to any bank, to anything. It's it's a digital currency, but it's only in this one small town, and it's all directed at this. So it looks broader than this. It looks at food sources, food distribution, because they also control food agriculture, food distribution, seeds, Monsanto and seeds.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's another woman here that also carries on about this a lot, and they keep saying gold and silver. That's your money alternative. I find this fascinating because there's a lot of individuals in the space where I live. And this particular individual has actually started a very small thing because of this, a new world. Because you're right, what is the so what is the point of having a world of robots?
Yeah, I don't understand what they're going to do after that. I just don't see the. Anyways, like, what do you do after you've got a one world government? Great. Then what?
And now, but then think about North Korea. Think about Ayatollah in Iran, and
Right.
think about China,
Russia.
Russia to some extent, as well
Uh,
as Cuba because of Che Guevara. So think about that. So they call it socialist, but there's a part of, I don't know, robotic control. Because I mean, my cousin was living in China for a bit, working there, and they control everything you watch, everything you do. I don't know.
This is the thing. When if you think about demons or dark energy, very powerful dark energy, you can harness it. I mean, you can really allow it to do very
Yeah.
powerful things. But when you
Yes,
start giving it the lead in terms of its idea is so like, okay, now we're just going to have a hell where everybody's running around and is your slave. Okay, what do you do then? What are you going to do? You're just going to lie around and be the leader forever? Is that
I get
fun? Is that even fun?
it's so boring. I mean,
So
you're
boring.
gonna eat great food every day and then wash. But
Exactly.
you know what's interesting
Then we
about
have
what
the
you just
and then we have the Islamists. Let me just finish this because I want to ask your opinion.
yes, yes,
And
yes.
we have the Islamists, and the Islamists believe in the coming of their Mahdi. They believe
Okay.
in the second coming of the Christ, I think, but also the coming of the Mahdi. I don't understand that very clearly. But basically, do you know in Iran, 2 weeks before the war broke out, they burned a statue of Baal?
Oh, I did not.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about bowl. I must be honest.
Yeah. So, anyways, whatever. So, all of this. So, basically, what you're starting to see is yes, there are absolutely, physical things that people are fighting for. The energy market is also a big one, right? That you need to understand, but also you need to understand what people are calling the eschatology, which is this religious propheticism. You know what I mean? Or religious whatever. But my question coming from where I am is what about the Hindus? What
Mm.
about the Buddhists?
The
What
Buddhists, yeah.
about all of China and Confucianism?
And then
Um,
let's not forget animism in Africa. So
just kind of limited at the more, but still.
but maybe limited because of this whole
Of course,
thing.
it's because of this, but my question
That,
is, where do these civilizations, right, play into all of this, right? Because they're not relevant. According to basically, you only have the Abrahamic traditions who
it's only
are playing with the eschatology of the war. All of the, Russia has basically banned GMOs. Putin has banned GMOs. Okay. So there were some very interesting things. The Ayatollah Khomeini, one of the things they don't want it, what they've seen is one of the ideas is that they're promoting degeneracy to weaken the civilization.
mm,
They're promoted actively. There was a lady in this LGBTQ who was basically saying, look, the LGB has always been there and has always been fighting a true, just cause for the rights of gay, lesbian, and bisexual people. But this TQ has been added, and that's a CIA psyop, again, to create degeneracy, this trans movement and all of that. And this is not unlike, fetishism, all of this kind of
yeah.
crazy stuff. They said that's not part of the movement of gay rights, the gay rights movement.
Mm.
So, the degeneracy has also been happening. So the apparently Khomeini and all of these Islamists, they also believe that this is what's happening, that the degeneracy that is prevalent, one of the reasons now they're presenting a very wounded masculine version of morality or values. But
Mm.
nevertheless, it's to protecting their culture from what they see as the degeneracy, which apparently these guys have an interest in creating and promoting in order to further destabilize and weaken civilizations. So my question is, okay, fine, this is all that's playing out. What the hell? What are these guys? Are they even involved in any of this? Does this mean that the apocalyptic scenarios that we are facing we're just irrelevant? These are like the majority of the world, I think, if you look at the Orthodox Christians, they believe in, I was watching this video. I don't know how much of it is propaganda because it was an AI video about the Ethiopian Bible. And apparently, the Ethiopian Bible is between 81 and 88 books, whereas the Christian Bible is 51 or 52 books.
Mm.
And
I
in the
read about
Ethiopian Bible, apparently, I don't know, Jesus Christ taught for 40 days after he resurrected. And in that 40 days, they were saying it was almost like a mission teaching, like preparing for war teaching. And again, in this video, who knows? What Jesus Christ was teaching was about energetics, the chakra system. He taught a special meditative and energy way of aware in elevating consciousness and all that stuff. And he said that this war that is coming, the World War III, this apocalyptic moment, will be fought with awareness, not with conventional weapons.
but he is, I mean, if you listen to some of the theories, some of the knowledge, what's his name? Oh God, I can't remember his name. There's two speakers that have studied a lot of this. There's a lot of missing knowledge of Jesus. There's
Mhm.
words that are not in the Bible purposefully, that have not been shown where he did learn this, where he did go to India. He did learn about energetics. He learned about that. So that makes a lot of sense to me. There's a lot missing. Also, if you look at the top economies in Africa at the moment, Nigeria, Egypt, Ethiopia are the fastest growing economies on the continent, which I also find fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that coming to me as I'm speaking is perhaps these cultures or civilizations are to play a role in the alternative pathway.
In the new
Yeah,
way. They,
potentially. I mean, there's a lot of shit in all of these
they,
places, but
they're going to destroy themselves. I mean, I can't see. So you kill each other to have one world government,
and
but
and basically
burning up
apparently the idea
there.
of the Jews is to get the Christians to kill the Muslims and to have a war between the Christians and the Muslims so they destroy each other and then these guys are left. And what is happening in all of this is this idea of self-sufficiency, or what we in spiritual terms call sovereignty.
Hmm.
Um,
It's really.
It's
It's
returning in a new way, you know?
the new way. I find it really interesting. I'm going to send you that video. I have to go. I've got a coaching session, but I'm going to send you that video. This
Um,
has been so interesting. I'm going to send you that video and just have a look at it.
Send me maybe a voice note of what you might, if anything, like I'm interested. I'm still not yet, I don't think I'm 100% understanding everything, but even just talking about it's helped.
But what's interesting is the also just the play of the influence of this on Africa. So bringing religion in, bringing Catholicism in, bringing this, kicking out the relationship to nature, the relationship to the sacred, those religious practices, and the but also the Islam on Africa is huge. I mean, Egypt alone, someone was telling me how many visitors go to Mecca just from Cairo. So they have to limit the number of visitors, obviously, every year. But the number that come from Africa is in millions. I don't have a point. I'm just
Yeah,
contemplating.
you're just contemplating. Would you also send me that guy you're talking about with the giants in his museum, the guy around in your
Yes,
area?
Michael
His
Tellinger.
organization and what he's doing.
I will send that to you. He's actually got a TV channel, it's subscription, but he's very big on all of this. But he's also very knowledgeable. So he's gone to conferences where he speaks with pyramidologists, scientists that have looked at the energetics the old way, but he's not like a spiritual hippie talking. He's like a proper, and he's also,
Archaeologist, sacred
yeah.
archaeologist in some. Yeah.
And I've met him. He's a South African guy, but he's actually funny. He's like, he gets geologists that come and tell him, oh, it was erosion. And he's like, are you fucking insane? He's like that type of guy. He's like, you can see this is not water erosion, idiot. It's a petrified heart. And I went to go and see a giant footprint. So he takes you on trips, and there's a giant footprint close to the border of Swaziland. There's a whole other piece of spirituality, Credo Mutwa in Zimbabwe. There is a whole spiritual wisdom on this continent that we've spoken about before that I think is the new way. But it's the energy of the nine, the innocent child, the child that's been quiet and the child that doesn't get taken seriously, but is deeply powerful. I'm still convinced. My mother always said Africa is the path to the new. And I I'm still convinced about that. I just don't know where that is within this, but it's really interesting.
Yeah. It's fascinating.
I'll send
Um,
that. It's
just
fascinating.
10 seconds because I did put a WhatsApp group because I did a Zany and I met about all of this situation without me telling her all of this stuff because she's also feeling a lot of energy. And I did a bit of a meditation and I started to see what is coming.
Oh,
And I'm happy to put it in the group. Like basically I was wondering, we have a group with me, Pal, another lady called Melina, Narissa, Kaya, Nicole, and I'm thinking about adding Zany and maybe you if you want. We're all women. If we want to just exchange about this stuff, and the future and by the way, one of the things I saw is that the healers now have to start walking. And maybe that's why what I asked you has come up in this session.
hmm.
So that just the way there's so much focus on all of this, these guys are so focused. I saw that we as healers now, or spiritualists or whatever, we have to have that same level of focus. Not in terms of action, but in terms of our awareness of what we are doing in our walking. Anyways, I don't know if you're okay. I don't know if that group will actually do anything, but you can always leave if nothing happens.
Yeah, it
But I
doesn't
want
phase me either way.
uh, with Kai and Nicole, I do feel I'm going to delete this part of it, but they kind of just stuck in just the darkness. But I feel what I really want to do is understand and then try to project, try to move forward with it rather than just being like, oh, this is the problem. You know what
Oh,
I mean?
that came earlier was when you said what is the point of the one world government, what came through to me, which was really interesting, was it's like my experience of like you seeking enlightenment, searching, 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 searching. You've got this goalpost, you get there, and it's completely not what you thought it was. But the thought that came through for me was that they're only looking at on the plane of Earth. It's not, maybe Elon Musk or others are thinking broader, and I don't know if they're part of that. That's a different conversation. But it's a one world it's like one goalpost on this plane. So I get it. I destroy everything. So it's a pointless exercise. I'm going to be deeply disappointed. And then what? It's
But
so,
it makes sense now. The one world government makes sense if this is not a human endeavor. If this is
if
a cosmic
yes, endeavor.
plan,
That's the thing.
then it makes sense to suppress this planet.
Perfect sense. And they did say 2026, there'd be more, I don't know, there'd be actual other cosmic beings.
Well, I mean, it's opening up already. Donald Trump and Barack Obama basically said there are UFOs, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
That-
true. They've started releasing that information. I think it is fascinating. I don't know what to make of it or why. It's true, your question. Why am I here? But let's see.
Yeah, so you got the crash course of 7 weeks. Use it,
Thanks.
use it, and I want to know what will come. I want to know what will come up for you, you know?
It's interesting because I've been receiving this information since I've moved here from different people, from different spaces, people who have been very invested in exactly what you're saying. A lot of supporters of Trump, in fact, not like what's blind supporters, just in some of the philosophies and thinking of him, not him, the MAGA philosophy in some way. So I don't know. Let's
Yeah.
see.
We've got 4 minutes before session.
Oh, you've also got a session now. I'm also going into a session now.
Well, like send me voice notes. If it's okay, I'll add you into the WhatsApp group and
Okay.
then just see if that, or I just feel like I need a space where people can also like add into this, you know, and like I don't feel called to add any women in here. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, lovely. It was
It's
so
really
nice.
nice. It was so nice to connect.
Yeah, it was super nice.
Really fascinating.
Yeah, I feel so happy to have been able to talk about it in the at this in this in this way that is not depressive, neither is it like fake hopeful. It's just exploring without judgment about it. You know, it's so nice. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I agree. Thank you. That was really good. I
Mhm.
enjoyed that thoroughly. It doesn't leave you like, oh my God, those normal conversations.
Neither does it be like, oh, we're all gonna be in the new earth, you know?
Yeah, I know. That's also, it's not. Just this is reality. Face it. It's here. This is what's happening. Yeah, you're not going to float on pink clouds. It's not going to
Mm,
happen. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, my
Yeah.
love. Love you
You take
lots.
care. Have a nice session.
Bye.